Hello, my darling, and welcome to the hunt for the Elder God Cthulhu. Chapter 2. You opened it. The voyage to Innsmouth was long, violent, and utterly silent. The dreadful groaned with every wave, her timbers aching as though the sea itself were trying to peel her open. Salt, cracked sails snapped overhead, and mist clung thick across the deck, curling into my lungs like wet fingers. No one spoke, not after what we'd seen. The sacrifice had changed something, not just in the air, but in us. Even the sea seemed aware now, slower, resentful, as if dragging us toward a destination it did not want to reach. Hours passed, maybe days. The horizon never shifted. Only when the fog swallowed the stars completely did we hear it. The slow creak of docks, the slosh of water against stone. Innsmouth had arrived like a wound reopening in the night. But long before the town revealed itself, something else had begun. Each night since the sacrifice, I'd felt it, closer, a pressure behind the eyes, a shape I could not name. It didn't walk the decks or whisper in the rigging. It simply moved nearer, as if the dreadful was not crossing the sea, but being stalked through it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes, wet stone, mouth where eyes should be, hands that remembered things I had forgotten. And always, the feeling that something watched me just past the reach of the lantern light, waiting with patience. I could not tell her, not yet. Mistress Midnight had asked for my truth, but something inside me recoiled at the thought. I'd spent years trying to forget Barzai, to bury what I stole, what I read, what I almost understood. And now, just as the pieces began to align, just as I felt the shadow of his madness brushing mine, I was to offer it up like a confession. No, not yet. There was more. Something I needed to see, to hear. Some page left unturned, even if it curled with rot. Instead, I had chosen blood. The easy path, I told myself. The simpler one. To let someone else vanish into ritual and fire, while I kept my secrets folded safe in my coat. But there was no ease in the waiting. No simplicity in the way the crew avoided my gaze, as if they knew what I had chosen. As if the next scream would echo louder because I had cast the vote. And beneath it all, the sense that this choice had marked me, that whatever waited for us in Innsmouth already knew. The closer we grew to the docks, the quieter the sea became. Unnaturally so. No seagulls. Few waves. Just the rasp of mist against wood and the slow, sick rhythm of the tide. Then, through the shroud, it emerged. Innsmouth. The town rose like a corpse half dredged from the ocean floor. Crooked, salt-eaten, and slouching under the weight of its own forgotten sins. Wooden docks gave way to cobbled paths, slick with brine and rot. Buildings loomed at uneven angles, sagging into the mist, as though ashamed to still stand. Shutters hung like broken eyelids. Lamps sputtered dim orange light, but none of them reached far. Everything here was grimed in shadow and moisture, and the very air smelled of wet stone and something older. The mistress disembarked first, her boots striking the dock with a sound far too sharp for the silence around her. The crew followed in a loose, reverent procession, weapons tucked beneath cloaks, eyes downcast. No one spoke her name. No one dared. And I, dragging my feet behind them, felt the weight of the place settle in my chest like an anchor. The legends had not done it justice. The people of Innsmouth, if they were people, watched us from windows cracked just enough to show glints of glassy, protruding eyes. Their mouths seemed too wide, their movements too slow, like they'd forgotten how to be human and were only now remembering. Somewhere in the distance, a door slammed. Then nothing. Just fog. Just watching. The mistress moved like she knew where she was going, each step deliberate, drawing us deeper into the city. She said nothing, yet her silence shaped the crew around her. They moved like shadows caught in orbit, their loyalty no longer a matter of choice, but gravity. I was among them now, marked by blood, by decision, and by something I didn't yet understand. Why were we here? Why Innsmouth? I watched the way the mistress walked, how the mist curled around her like a veil. She wasn't just leading us through this place. She was answering it, like something had called her here. Or worse, expected her. And still I felt it. That same presence, closer than ever now. No longer just at the edges of my dreams. It was here. In the dark. In the water. Waiting. We continued to move inland, boots slick against moss-slick stone, the buildings closing around us like teeth. The fog thickened, clinging to our skin, wrapping around us in damp, velvet silence. And still, the mistress said nothing. She didn't need to. Her direction was absolute, her stride unwavering. We followed her as though tethered. A figure emerged from an alley, gaunt, barefoot, cloaked in wet rags. He blinked at us with bulbous eyes, the whites tinged with yellow, the pupils too large. His lips moved, but no words came out, just a clicking noise. He pressed a swollen hand to his chest and bowed so low I thought his spine might snap. Then others came, one by one, from doorways, from fog, from behind warped shutters, watching, kneeling, whispering things I couldn't understand. They spoke in hisses and bubbles, like they were drowning on dry land. Their skin sagged. Their necks were too thick, gilled in places the eye didn't want to rest on. Still, the mistress did not look at them. She turned sharply down a side street, and I knew instantly the town didn't want us going this way. The mist grew colder, thicker. It carried a scent now. Stale incense, dead algae. The cracked iron gate appeared in the fog, half sunken in the earth, its hinges overgrown with black moss. Beyond it, buried in the broken ribs of a hill, stood the remains of a temple. No sign marked it. No symbol, even. Only a massive stone door, sea-scarred and cracked with age, etched with what might once have been writing, but now just bled down the stone like old wounds. Mistress Midnight approached it like she'd done it 1,000 times before. She didn't knock. She placed her hand flat against the stone, and the door moaned open. Not inward, but downward. Steps revealed themselves in wet stone, slick and black, plunging beneath the town. She turned to us then, just briefly. Her eyes met mine. "You asked why we came here," she said. Her voice was low, almost tender. "We came to find the bars I left behind." Then she descended into the dark, and I followed. The stairs yawned before me, slick with centuries, and I hesitated at their mouth. Her words rang through me. What bars I left behind. A memory rose, unbidden. Barzai, arms stretched to the sky atop Hathig Claw, eyes wide, with a kind of joy that didn't belong on a mortal face. I had followed him that night, half in awe, half in fear, my feet crunching snow beneath the ancient stars. He'd spoken of the gods that danced beyond the mountain, of truth waiting for those brave enough to seek it. But I remembered what came after. The silence, the scream that did not echo, and how the stars seemed to blink, like something vast had opened its eyes. Barzai never returned from that summit. Only his journal did, stained with something black and salt thick, pages missing, others scorched, the writing twisted sideways, as if whatever he had seen had warped the ink itself. Now I was chasing that same scream, and whatever lay beneath Innsmouth, I feared it would answer. I gripped the rusted rail, and stepped into the dark. The descent was like falling through a throat. The air grew thick, humid, pulsing with the breath of something ancient. The walls narrowed around us, lined with damp stone, etched in half-erased symbols, spirals, claws, eyes with no pupils. Every step echoed, but not in the way it should have. The sound didn't bounce. It rumbled. Water dripped from above, slow, deliberate echoes. But the ceiling loomed impossibly high, swallowed in a darkness so deep it might as well have been the sky. The stench was overwhelming now, a rank, clinging mix of salt and decay, with a sickly sweet note like fermented fruit, steeped in centuries-old blood, as if the air itself had been steeped in death. The steps leveled out at last, revealing a circular chamber, vast and open like the hollowed heart of a drowned god. Pillars of barnacle-crusted stone rose into blackness. Tide marks striped the walls at varying heights, some reaching nearly to the ceiling. The sea had been here, or still was. And then, light. A soft, smoldering glow ahead of us. Not fire, not flame. Wings. A single Valkyrie stood at the far end of the chamber, her silhouette framed in a slow pulse of bluish-white radiance. Her armor gleamed like sea glass pulled from deep water. Her eyes, two narrow slits of burning blue, stared directly at us as we entered, unblinking. She did not speak. She did not move. But she had been waiting. Mistress Midnight did not falter. She passed the Valkyrie without acknowledgement, though I saw the slightest incline of her head, as if offering silent permission or penance. We followed, silent and awed. The crew fanned out, forming a half circle around a strange altar at the center of the room. I held back, hovering at the threshold, my eyes torn between the eerie stillness of the Valkyrie and the altar that gleamed like something pulled from a creature's ribcage. It wasn't stone. It was bone. Twisted vertebrae and jawbones of creatures too large to exist, fused into a platform, carved with the same script as Barzai's journal. My chest tightened. I recognized the pattern, not the words, but the rhythm of them. Barzai had copied them from this place. He had been here. The mistress stepped toward the altar and knelt down on one knee. The crew gathered in a half circle, reverent and still, as though this place had rules their bones remembered, even if their minds did not. I hovered near the edge, unwilling to join them. Then I saw it, carved into the bone itself, a symbol, jagged and recursive. The final mark, far as I had etched into the last page before the ink turned to ash. I stared, and something inside me began to hum. The hum inside grew louder. It wasn't a sound, not exactly. More like pressure, rising behind my eyes and in the hollow of my chest, as if the temple itself recognized me or judged me. The mistress still knelt there, hand resting lightly on the altar's edge, her head bowed. Not in prayer. She was listening. The Valkyrie behind her stirred, wings folding tightly, flame dimming. The crew remained motionless, their eyes unfocused, trance-like. I opened my mouth to speak, but no sound came. My throat had dried to salt. That's when the tide shifted. The floor shuddered, not a quake, but a breath. Something deep and slow inhaled beneath us. The puddles on the floor rippled outward in concentric rings. The light dimmed as though the moss was afraid. Mistress Midnight rose. Her coat fell away, revealing a sleeveless garment beneath, ink black and adorned with curling silver thread that shimmered like constellations. In her right hand, she drew a blade I had not seen before, smaller than her sacrificial sword, curved like a crescent moon. Its edge bled mist. She began to speak, but not in any tongue I knew. Each word seemed to stretch, to fracture the air as it passed her lips. Dust lifted from the altar in little puffs. The Valkyrie dropped to one knee. The crew followed. We all watched the mistress. And then something began to rise from the center of the altar. Not from above, from within. Bone shifted. A seam split open. And inside, wrapped in seaweed and salt-stained cloth, was a relic. It pulsed. Once. Twice. Then opened its eye. There was no iris, no sclera, just a perfect, glistening sphere of obsidian, with veins of lightning flickering across its surface. It did not look. It saw. Through me. Through us. And then it spoke. Not in words. Not even in sound. But in a shriek that wasn't heard with ears. It slammed directly into the center of my mind. Louder than thought. Sharper than memory. I dropped to my knees, hands clamped over my skull. But it made no difference. The scream peeled through everything, through the marrow of my bones, through every truth I had ever told myself to survive. It shredded. I saw stars collapse. I saw mouths without faces, whispering through black water. I saw Barzai, screaming not from pain, but joy. And still, it screamed. Mistress Midnight staggered back, her blade dropping for the first time I'd ever seen. Her breath came ragged, her eyes wild. "No," she hissed, voice trembling with the fury I'd never heard before. "That is not what was promised." The eye pulsed again. She reeled, then spun on one of her own men. "Is this what you demand?" she roared, dragging him forward by the collar. He didn't resist. Couldn't. The scream had hollowed him. She held his head over the altar, and her blade flashed, and blood sprayed across the eye in a fan of crimson. The relic shuddered. The Valkyrie shrieked, and then her wings went dark. The chamber plunged into blackness so complete it felt wet, like being swallowed. The only sound was the echo of that psychic scream, still trembling through our skulls, now somehow inside the darkness. I tried to speak. I couldn't. I wasn't sure I had a mouth anymore. The blackness didn't lift. It peeled, like old paint curling from fire. The dark receded in jagged strips, revealing not the temple as it had been, but as it was, or would be. The air shimmered with unreality. Pillars were whole now, freshly carved with writhing script. The altar glowed from within, its bones slick with blood, both fresh and impossibly ancient. Moss bloomed in impossible colors, pulsing softly, like the breath of a dreaming god. The eye remained open, fixed now on me. It no longer screamed. It sang. A low, thrumming melody I couldn't interpret, but felt. A song of gravity and decay. Something that called the tides and named the stars. It was inside my veins now, humming through my ribs like a second heartbeat. Mistress Midnight knelt beside the altar, bloodied blade at her side. Her face was pale, her voice a low tremble. "It has accepted the offering," she whispered, "but the price has changed." She looked up at me, and for the first time, her gaze held something like pity. "It knows you," she said. I stumbled back, heart hammering. But the crew did not move. They were still kneeling, eyes closed, lips moving in prayer or madness. The Valkyrie stood motionless too, wings black as pitch, her fire extinguished. Her body now a silhouette of a shadow, with glowing blue eyes, watching me with hunger and recognition. The mistress rose, blood still clinging to her arms. "It left something behind," she said. "A key, but not one you hold." She stepped back from the altar, and something shifted in the bone. A crack widened, and something small began to rise. A scroll, bound in flesh, etched with the symbol I'd seen in Barzai's journal. I reached for it, against every instinct, and the moment my fingers touched it, the eye of the relic closed. The chamber groaned. The altar folded shut like the lips of a mouth, and the temple began to tremble. The scroll burned against my palm, cold and wet, like something pulled from a drowned man's throat. And the moment the altar sealed shut, the temple groaned in protest. Stone cracked above us. The floor shifted beneath our feet. Water, black and frigid, burst through fissures in the walls. It didn't flow. It lunged, like something alive. The crew snapped out of their trance all at once, shouting, scrambling for the stairs as the chamber began to flood. The mistress grabbed my arm. Run. She didn't wait to see if I obeyed. She moved like a shadow cast from lightning, slicing through the rising water and broken stone, her coat snapping behind her, her bandana a red flag in the chaos. I clutched the scroll tighter, teeth chattering as cold surged up my legs. The temple howled around us, windless, breathless. The scream of something ancient collapsing inward. Behind me, the Valkyrie let out a cry, not of pain, but promise, a vow of return. The water chased us, sloshed, then surged, swallowing the steps two at a time. We burst through the temple's threshold just as the hill behind us caved inward, dragging stone, bone, and godless silence into the sea. The mist parted just enough for moonlight to catch the wet faces of the villagers, now gathered in the shadows between buildings, their glassy eyes blinking in unison. But they did not interfere. They watched. The mistress stood beside me, soaked, breathing hard, her blade already back in its sheath. Her lips parted, and for the first time since we left the dreadful, she smiled, faint but unmistakably pleased. "It's begun," she whispered. I turned to her, the scroll still burning in my grip. "What is it?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes lingered on my hand, on the scroll, as if confirming something she'd only hoped for. When she finally looked at me, her expression was unreadable, a blend of satisfaction and something like relief. "You opened it," she purred. My stomach lurched at the look in her eyes, and I wondered, had she ever meant to touch it herself? No choice awaits you this time, dear Lorekeepers. Your last choice still echoes in the deep, and its consequences have only just begun.